All right, in this video, we're going to implement this advanced gradebook challenge, and hopefully I don't screw it up too badly. So I'm back here in the repo, and what I want to do is I've done a git status, and we made some changes to the ESLint config that I mentioned in previous videos, and I can take a look at those changes by just saying git diff, and as we recall, this was it's something to keep in mind. We don't want to use single letter variables, but trying to enforce it judiciously is being annoying. So we removed that rule, so I'm going to just add that, and I'm going to write this up as a conventional commit. And the rest of the changes, as I mentioned before, they're just basically copied and pasted from the lesson, so I don't want those changes. So for the untracked files, I'm just going to say get clean. I forget what FD stands for, forcibly and something, including directories maybe. But if we do that, it removes all of those, and then we are on a clean slate. I can go and push those previous changes. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, of course, in VS Code. I'll have to adjust the screens here most likely. Yep, it opened on the other screen. All right, so we're familiar with how this works. We are reminded that we should always open up the actual project we're working on so that we have the .vs Code directory up here. And a couple of other reminders: if you are on Windows, you should look in your help menu to see if it says check for updates, and you should check for updates because this stuff was just updated recently. Every month it gets updated, and especially with the AI features and tooling, it may be worth it to have those recent updates. The other thing to keep updated is if you go to your Warp, which you should have signed into and linked to your GitHub, there's usually a some sort of button up here about doing updates. So both of those, keep an eye on those and try to keep those updated. If you are on Mac, of course, you could just use the homebrew. You would do something like this. Just ask Warp and it'll tell you how to do that. That's if you are on Mac. All right, so with this, we're just going to stay on the main branch and everything and jump right into it. So first things first, I'm going to try to build this like I would be, making something in real life for work or whatever. So first thing I want to do is kind of a problem analysis. Now, of course, some of this is a little over dramatic for this relatively simple problem, but still, let's go through the steps. So before I don't just jump right into the code, problem analysis. So I want to understand what it is that I'm building. So, well, I can't really do that because I don't have the starter code. So let's take care of that. Yeah, I still need to add that. It's going to be in gradebook challenge.js. And we're going to grab. I'm just going to put it in the index file. And there we go. Okay, and so we have some linting errors or whatever. So in terms of understanding our data structure, we have this gradebook object with just the key courses in here, and this is actually adding these as methods. So I'm going to remix this, and I want you to do this update also because I did this with methods, but we don't really do that. Like we've discussed in a previous video, we usually keep our data separate from our functions. A functional approach means that we write these specialized functions that work regardless of where they're situated, and they just take in the data and spit the output. Same input, same output. It doesn't matter about any silly this keywords. So I'm going to remix this, and like I said, I want you to make this update also. So I'm going to move this out here, and then we're going to get rid of these braces and junk. Oh, so these need to be rewritten. Okay, so, well, if I ask the AI to rewrite it, it's going to try to fill in all the code, which, may or may not. Let's just go ahead and write these out then. We'll write these as arrow functions. So this, I will allow this much. Like I said, the AI probably has this down pat. Like, this is not bad at all. It's probably where we're going to end up, but still, let's go through the processes. Okay, and we can delete these to-dos because look at the naming, right? I mean, there's really no If you look at the name of the function and the parameters, it's really pretty straightforward what it is supposed to do. We don't need a whole lot of additional documentation. That's called self-documenting code. So if you're not sure, you should probably add some comments and things, but generally speaking, comments, too many comments can create clutter also. So for right now, I'm just going to, oh, that's because this stupid comma is still here. And this stupid comma is still here. Control K, that's control regardless of Mac or Windows. And that'll delete the whole line starting from wherever the cursor is. Yes, I will allow this much to be done. Okay. So again, in 2025, with the advent of AI, it's not necessarily, it's a little bit of a different workflow, right? So let me just, there we go. Now we're set up with 3 arrow functions. Again, you don't have to write these as arrow functions. You could use the function keyword, pretty much the same thing for all intents and purposes. So do whichever one you like. So now let's understand what we're building. Well, we kind of understand what we're building. Our ticket or our task here, we have 3 different functions. So we're probably going to have at least 3 commits. If some of these take a little bit longer, we might have more than 3 commits, but at the very least, we're going to have 3 commits. And then our data structure now, we have this gradebook object with courses in it. And again, we probably could have simplified this and just said const courses and just had the array directly there. But, why not switch it up a little bit in terms of being exposed to how things could be formatted in real life? Because, this could be courses, there could be other, other things in here. So that's fine that it's, got a nested structure. We just have to recognize that. We have an object with a nested key, courses. But everything we're dealing with is essentially an array of objects. Now, looking at the tasks at hand, we have assignments that we want to add for, let's see, presumably for everybody, assignment name and max points, and then the points would just be null or something. Return a new gradebook object with assignment. I didn't really make that clear. Nobody really asked, but that's going to be my interpretation, that all of the students that are in the class should have that added as assignments, and then I would say maybe points is just going to be null. That would actually be a decent use case for the null keyword in this situation. Let's see, we need to find the students and courses using array methods, calculate percentages from the points and max points, create new objects without mutating the originals, and then, maybe add some edge cases like if there's missing data or something, but we won't put too much emphasis on that. All right, so looking at this one, we have a course ID and a student ID. I'm going to hit Command B to hide my sidebar. I'm going to hit Command / to do a split screen, and then I can, look at my gradebook along with the methods. I'm going to switch my theme up to Command K, Command T. I'm going to go with something different like Cobalt 2. All right. Should return a percentage based on the assignments, which is, I guess, pretty clear. Again, we don't even need any additional documentation. This is very clear here. So we need to find the course. That's the first step. So I'm going to go in here and write some pseudocode. Again, in this day and age with AI, would I sit here and write pseudocode and do all this in-depth planning? No, it's maybe kind of a lost art form. But at the same time, in real life, I mean, I work from home. I just work. I don't work for myself, but I work by myself. I will get up and walk around the room. I will just have a conversation with myself. I will speak it out loud. A lot of times now, I mean, I guess I have a conversation with Claude or Warp or something also, but there is still a thought process. It's not just, AI, let's just, click it and we're done. Because it's very rare that I just take the AI code as it is. Now, for these, again, for the purposes of this class and being a community college course, pretty sure the AI can write good enough code where I'm going to grade it and at least give somebody a C or a B, maybe even a B+. But to get the A, maybe not all the time. All right, so we need to find the course. I'll just kind of write some steps here. So we slashes, step one, find the course by course ID, stop it AI. I want to teach how to actually think through the problem. And of course, if you really want to, train your brain, you just go down here and click and just turn off the AI and disable it for the moment and try to do it without AI, which again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that, all the time. And I'm not going to do that in real life, but it's really up to you. If you sometimes feel like you want that little bit of an extra challenge or a little bit of extra practice, it's not a bad idea. There are some, which I think are stupid, but there are some job interviews where they say, oh, we're going to give you this little thing to solve and you're not allowed to use AI and you have to use this, proprietary web browser based code editor. And it's stupid. Like, simulate the real working conditions. Unless you're a backwards company that I don't want to work for, you're using AI in 2025. So anyway, so just keep that in mind. That's not how I work. That's not how I would do the interviews, but that is a thing. So if you want to be a little bit more hardcore, that's something that some people choose to do. Okay, so we find the course. Find the student in that course. In that course. Stop it. I'm going to hit escape. After that, we can calculate the percentage. And we can, add a little. I mean, the AI is still helpful just to kind of talk this out. I don't want to sit here and type all this. And then we just, basically return the percentage. And we might want to handle some cases if the course or the student, doesn't exist. So, we'll add that note. Oops, Z. Okay, just stop it. Okay. Return the percentage. Just give me that one line, and then I'm going to hit Shift Enter // and then I'm going to say, wow, are you inside my head? Okay, handle cases where course or student ID is not found. Again, these tools are getting better and better. So let's get started with step one. And really, I'm not going to do that many commits for the purposes of making a video. But, this could be its own commit, if, especially when you're learning and you're taking things one step at a time. You're not paying per commit, 5 commits, go ahead. It doesn't cost extra. It doesn't cost anything, actually, especially if you, have the student ID and all that stuff, the developer pack. So how do we find the course by the course ID? So I'm not going to type these comments, but we already are familiar with the find method. So let's just step through it before we write the code. Obviously, we know we're going to go into the gradebook object and we're going to say .courses. So these things are going to reference this external data. Now, just to let somebody know, that is not a pure function. That is not pure functional programming, because this method will not work unless it has access to this data in the scope, right? And a truly pure function should not matter at all anything outside of it. So I think I misspoke earlier. So this is still a violation of in terms of pure programming, pure functional programming rather. If we were doing it that way, we would pass in like the course or grade book or something like that, and everything would be referenced in here. What's going to end up happening is this function at some point in our code is going to say, oh, okay, let me go find this grade book that they're talking about, right? So just make that note that is a difference. All right, so with all those parameters being established, we know that we can go into gradebook.courses. We know it's an array, and since it is an array, we have access to the find method. Just do find method MDN, and we know that we have to the find method because this is an array, a JavaScript array. It's based upon the array prototype, which inherits from the object prototype. And this is I get a lot of ads for this Monday.dev. Anyway, array prototype. So we have access to the find method, and you can pause the video and look at this, but we've talked about it. It's going to find the one object that we're looking for. So with all of that being set, kind of having talked through this process, let's just proceed with implementing the code, which I'm pretty sure the AI is going to take care of. So I'll leave the comment in there right now. And we will say, didn't do anything just yet. So we'll start typing and then it'll fill it in. So I will say const found course. So I like to use that convention. It's kind of just something that I do generally. And that when I look at that variable, if I see that variable reference somewhere and it says found course, then tells me that this likely is something that was returned by the find method. And it also tells me that it could possibly be, what is it, null or I think it's undefined if it's not found. So that tells me two things just looking at the variable name. Otherwise, yeah, this is pretty much par for the course. Yeah, we could also, that's the edge case thing right there. But let's see, gradebook.courses.find. So what's happening is it's going into gradebook, the dot notation, it's looking for the thing called courses. Since this is an array, that is why find will work. So now it's going to iterate over each course. So there's actually only one. Yeah, actually, there's only one course, isn't there? So it's not really much of an iteration, but we can pretend there's, multiple courses. And what's going to happen is it's going to look at this one course, this entire this entire structure that's in here. And oh, there we go. It was confusing me because it's an object, right? Here we go. This entire object, so that we could have like 10 of these or however many courses we have. So it's going to come in here and it's going to go to the first course, which is right here, and then it's going to access course.id. So right here, we're in this course, we're going to access this ID property, and that's, in this case, is going to be CS277. So that's going to be right here, and we're comparing it to whatever course ID that we passed in. And we're using our strict triple equals comparison. So let's see, I guess one thing we can do, well, I mean, like I said, we can console log and make sure it works, but I'm 99.8% sure that this is the code that we need. So I'm going to actually do a little refactor. So at this stage, it would be perfectly fine for someone to take this comment, cut it, and then go do a commit and just paste this in as the commit message. So again, by doing this sort of pre-planning, I mean, yeah, like I said, the AI can help you out quite a bit, but this helps you clarify your thinking, clearly explain and understand what's happening, hopefully. And not only that, but you're basically pre-writing your commits. So you can just cut and paste that in and then delete this comment. So we'll pretend that I did that. And I'm going to make a little refactor here, actually. So if you remember object destructuring, so this is an example of something, you don't have to do this. If you don't like how this looks, then don't do it. But what I would like to do is put some braces in here, and instead of saying course.id, just immediately destructure ID, and it just makes the code a little bit shorter. Okay, so we're done with the first step. And again, you could do another commit that could say refactor to use destructuring, for instance. Okay, so now we have to find the student course. So again, looking at our structure here, once we found a course, that's this, we have a property called students, and this is also an array. Therefore, the find method will be what we need. So now how do we find the student? We have a student ID, so same idea. We're going to iterate, check the first ID, the second ID, etc. So we'll let the AI definitely implement this if it wants to. Yeah, this is good. Look, it's already picked up that we like to do, we like to do destructuring. And you'll notice here it's implemented the optional chaining. And as we mentioned before, found course could be undefined. What would happen if we did undefined dot students? It would say, you would have an error at that point, and it would say cannot access students on property undefined. So that's why we use the conditional chaining, especially with something like the find, because there is that possibility that's undefined. And this will prevent the code from crashing out or erroring out. It will just stop here and say, oh, wait a minute, I got an undefined, so I'm just not going to go any further with this. I'm just going to move to the next line of code.